To start this season, Scoot Henderson was one of the most criticized rookies I've ever seen. Through the first 9 games of his career, he averaged just 8 points, 4 assists, and 4 turnovers on some not so great shooting splits. So I get where the backlash was coming from. But the guy was 19 years old, just getting his first reps in the NBA, and for a lot of players it takes a few months to really figure things out. That's the stage we're entering in Scoot's first year. Over his last 12, he's averaging about 15 and 4, only turning the ball over twice, and the efficiency is on a completely different level. With that, Portland's offense has been on another level, clearly reaping the benefits of Scoot's improvements. Coming into the NBA, his big draw was a freakish athletic profile, and right now we're seeing the entire toolbox. He has one of those lightning quick first steps that can only be described as jarring. A defender loses focus for just a millisecond, and all of a sudden he's exploding into a drive. Here's one where it looks like he's setting up a dribble handoff, and as soon as Booker positions himself to play it, Scoot instead bursts downhill and takes off for an attempt to put Nurkic on a poster. He doesn't need any momentum to take that first step. He's just as explosive from a standstill, throwing a couple jabs and fakes before attacking baseline. Christian Wood never had a chance. And that ability to explode from a standstill has turned him into a nasty off-the-catch slasher. Peyton Watson tries to reach into the passing lane, and that's all it takes for Scoot to turn on the Jets for a dunk. Here's another example. Scoot's not much of a spot-up shooter, so Bridges feels comfortable overplaying the nail, but he too tries to jump the lane, leaving Scoot with space to get downhill, where he draws help and kicks it to the opposite corner for a great look from 3. It's not just the explosiveness that makes him so effective in these spots, but how good he is at choosing an angle. This closeout's coming from his right hip, so he fakes an attack left to clear the middle, and with nobody else to meet him, that's just too easy. It also isn't just about choosing an angle, but timing it right. He waits until the precise moment that Crowder can't recover before starting his drive, and with Giannis coming up to help, notice how he leads with his body, jumping into his chest to set up a finish. That's a tactic Scoot uses a lot. Whenever a shot blocker stands in between him and the basket, instead of turning away, he'll jump right into their body as a way to create separation. This one starts way out in space. You've got the initial burst and a vicious push crossover to create a lane, and instead of stopping for a floater or taking it to the left side of the rim, he goes right into the lower body of Bamba and draws a foul. You'll see him generate quite a bit of free throws like this, seeking out contact instead of avoiding it, and over those last 12 games, he's averaging just under 5 free throw attempts a game, which over an entire season would be the 9th most by a rookie in the past decade. The problem is, you won't get the call every single time, and because Scoot has a tendency to seek out contact, when he doesn't find it, there's no real angle for him to finish. He's developed a habit of launching himself into non-existent opportunities, which I think is the culprit for some really poor finishing numbers. Of the 155 players that have attempted at least 100 shots at the rim, he's dead last in efficiency at about 47%, while no other player is below 53. The league average at the rim is over 66%, so we're talking about a near 20% disparity. With that said, he's got some tools working for him in these spots, and as he figures out how to use them, he should improve drastically. First is his strength. He's a big 6'3", and that really helps him on those plays where he seeks out contact and finds it. Next is his length, which gives him access to angles that other players simply can't get to, like this up and under around the body of Chet Holmgren. Here's another one that showcases the length. He bursts downhill, but the help does a good job of forcing him baseline, where 2 big strides and an extended arm still leave him with a quality look. When it all comes together, the burst, strength, and length, even though he's not shooting good at the rim at all, he's still getting there pretty much whenever he wants, and you can't just let him walk into layups. So that constant pressure forces the defense into rotation, where he can showcase maybe his best attribute, the playmaking. A lot of times you'll see help load up early. He's just starting on a drive when Gordon parks at the nail, and with a simple kick out, his teammates got a wide open top of the key triple. He's already a very good passer. This time in semi-transition, 2 defenders load up to wall him off from the paint, leaving nobody to pick up a streaking cutter. The tools and skills are one thing, but putting them to use is another. And you'd think that an athletic phenom like this would be getting a lot of opportunities in transition. But the Blazers are one of the slowest teams in the NBA. Actually, when the ball's in Scoot's hands, he's typically running lots of pick and roll, where if given any sort of space to turn the corner, he's using that burst to explode to the rim. Even when a big comes up to meet him at the level, he's a nightmare to contain. What 7-footer's gonna stay in front of that? So what you'll see most of the time is Big sitting back in a deep drop, and the key for him is finding ways to score in that short mid-range. He really likes this 2-foot floater, using his vertical pop to quickly get it up and over the defense. And he can even use that as a way to manipulate defenders. It looks like he's setting it up, but actually blends it into a lob for Ayton. To protect the big from having to deal with that, a lot of defenders will choose to go under the screen, leaving him with space to pull up for a jumper. Another one of his notable qualities coming into the league was his use of the mid-range as a counter. You can see that here. He gets the switch onto Portis, who's more worried about protecting the paint from that slashing, so he just pulls up for an elbow jumper. This time Caruso's gonna stay glued to him off the screen, but because he's stuck on Scoot's hip, that leaves him with space to fade into a one-legged bucket. He's already pretty good at creating separation for himself. Of course, due to his strength, the classic bump midi is always an option, and he also has that more methodical approach when needed, holding his defender in jail as he works his way to the paint before stepping back into a jumper over the top of Claxton. I still think this area of his game is really raw though. Here's another one where he puts his defender in jail, the right idea, and a higher level driver like Ja Morant or Anthony Edwards would likely continue attacking open space on the right side of the paint to force Chet into a tough decision, but he doesn't see that and instead falls back on the lower percentage jumper. Or you've got a play like this where he wants to turn the corner, gets met early, and has the right idea of pulling back before starting a new attack, except it all falls through when he tries one of those contact finishes unsuccessfully. There's really only one other thing I want to talk about, and it's something that I'm not really sure what to make of. What I'm referring to is the fact that he's shooting surprisingly good on pull-up threes, something that was viewed as a big weakness. He's made about 37% of these, although it's still a really small sample, just 68 attempts. So it's more something to track moving forward as opposed to a legitimate attribute right now. Because of his slashing, teams often leave him with space, whether that means less pressure on the ball or a softer coverage in the pick and roll. And if he can knock them down with even semi-consistency, well, we've got to revisit discussions about his ceiling. As for what that looks like right now, we're talking about a big, lengthy combo guard who's already shown he can play on and off the ball with some of the most impressive athletic tools you'll find in the league. Though he remains raw in terms of finishing around the rim, shot making, he can be a little questionable with his decision making, so while he is hitting a stride right now, it'll still take some time for him to really start impacting games consistently. Either way, the flashes are there, and they're becoming more and more apparent with every game. So make sure you buy your stock before it's all out, because the Scoot Henderson that struggled to start the season is not the same Scoot Henderson that's playing right now. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Scoot. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.